Go.
I'm Ken Collis, and I'll be giving my persuasive speech today for Southeast Community College. Hello, I'm Ken Collis, and today I will be talking about unfair grades you see in high school and college. To me, this is one big deal that needs to be kind of fixed, or the grading scale needs to be regulated to make it even for all students across the country. We'll start in high school because that's kind of where grades start to matter a little bit more than grade school and that. If you look at high school, you'll notice that there are 4 common grade scales used. 10-point grade scale, 8-point, 7-point, and 6-point. My high school went with the 7-point grade scale, which meant a 94 and up was an A, then a 94 and down was a B, and so on. Well, now you're comparing this student to a student that has a grade scale of a 90 and up is an A. And to me, it's just one of those things that they need to be regulated a little better, because when you're in high school, it really doesn't matter. If you're not planning on going to college, you get what you get and you try to do your best. But now when you're sending in your transcript, let's say to out of state to university, now you have one kid that's getting a 90% at one school and they have an A, and you're comparing it to another kid that's getting a 90% at another school, and that's now a B+. That changes your grade point average from 3.3 to 3.6. This 0.3 might seem small to some people, but that's a big advantage to you if you have that on your side when you're setting into a university to try to get into that university. And some people say it's fair and it's adjust school by school, but a lot of schools, some schools might offer a 10-point scale, but then within that school itself, you now have 2 history classes, one's on a 10-point scale and one's on a 7-point scale. It's just one of those things where I feel not just every school should be regulated, but all the schools should be regulated together. Because now when you get to college, this is happening again. You now, on top of just different scales or teachers not telling you what the scale is until the end of the semester, you have bell curves that come into play. So one example for Iowa State is their physics class. Every engineer has to take the physics class to be able to continue on with your degree. Well, if you take it in the fall, the average in the class is an A minus, where if you take it in the spring, the average goes to a C. It's one of those things where it's the same grading scale, but the teachers grade differently and give harder tests based on the semesters. And it's not just like it's one year that this happened. If you look back and go through the history of years, you'll notice that in the spring, the class has a lower grade point average because this is when all the engineers come in to take this class, and they consider it a weaving in and out class. To me, this is unfair because what about the engineers that take it in the fall? Now they have the A instead of the C. This changes your GPA from a 2.0 to you're now averaging a 3.3 for a 5-credit class. That's a big upset for your GPA if you're the one that's getting C. And then when you look at other colleges that you're comparing, if you have a degree from Iowa compared to Illinois and you're applying for the same job, how do you look at GPA? The employer just looks at GPA and goes 3, 3.5. Well, you hire the 3.5 guy if they're equal on everything else. Well, how do you know the kid didn't work harder for that 3 and it's actually an 85% 3, where the kid that has a 3.5, they're actually at an 80% on their grading scale? And it's one of those, when you look up reports online and that, you will find the different arguments based on trying to regulate grading scales. How do you compare different schools in their grading scales? And then you have the other side where they're stating that teachers make it fair for their class. Well, not all teachers make it fair. Some just give out the A's just to give out the A's, and some make it challenging. And for one example would be my chemistry class I took. He would not give you your grading scale. He'd say 10% of the classes go get an A, and then from there on we'll figure out what it goes. Well, turns out that at the end of the year, he took the top 10% of the class, gave them the A's, and if you were 0.01 below that top 10%, you were now at a B+ range. You might have had an 94%, but you still get a B+. To me, it's unjustified to be able to do this to different students, where you have other classes where you fail a test and it won't hurt you. You can fail a test and make your grades back up based off of their grading scale because you have more leniency. Whereas now if you're doing a 7-point scale or a bell curve, you can do perfect hundreds on the rest of the test and you still end up with a C- in the class because of that one test that you messed up on. And to me, it's one of those where the schools, if will be comparing students to other students from around the entire nation, it should be regulated more so every student has a fair chance. And that's just how I feel. Thank you.